Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with my friend, Jeff LaFrenz. Jeff was born right here in Calgary, Alberta. His amazing wife and 4-year-old son are very patient with his entrepreneurial life, as much as a 4-year-old can be, of course. After many years in the oil and gas industry, Jeff's wife decided to shift her career into sustainability, and she absolutely loves it. His son is exploring preschool and loving it after being socially isolated for all these months. Besides Jeff's loved ones, he's very passionate about the company that he co-founded, VizworX, all the great people that work there, and all the ways they are able to help clients and partners on a daily basis. He's also passionate about the volunteer work that he does and giving back to our community. Such a good human. Friends, you will find his full bio attached. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to your answers to the questions. Are you ready?
I'm well as ready as I'm going to be, yes.
Perfect. So the first one being, what's been your greatest challenge in the last few months?
In the last few months, it's really just been figuring out how to continue life. You know, we're all going through this massive change in the way that we were pre-COVID, and you know, the term that's overused now, the new normal, whatever we want to consider life as it is right now. And so this transition from working in the office to working from home, having a 4-year-old around and trying to blend in the balance of family and work and kind of blur the lines completely between the two of them. I think that's been the biggest challenge overall, to come to a way of accommodating all this and making sure that you're as healthy, both physically, mentally, and socially, as you can be within this whole environment.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's been an interesting time for everyone, obviously.
Absolutely, and I really feel for so many people who, particularly in the hospitality side and the transportation and side of things, where it's just been tremendously traumatic with regards to the business opportunities that they have. And I feel for people who are caught up in that environment. We're fortunate in that the kind of things that we do from a work perspective are actually increasing in demand as people realize the needs for the stuff that we do, and the value that provides for them to do the business work they do. So we've been even busier than we've ever been, and we've been growing accordingly. But that's the balance, right? And unfortunately, it's not an equally distribution. There's people who are doing, like us, crazier than ever in terms of the amount of work we're doing, and other people that are starving literally for opportunities to do things. And so it's a crazy time, and I think it's going to have long-term impacts with our society as a result of that.
Oh, I agree. The PTSD that's coming out of this, oh my gosh.
Massive, absolutely.
Brutal. Thank you, Jeff. What about the 3 things that you want to share with us today?
3 things. So 3 things, sure. One of the things for sure is just around the resilience. What I've been finding is that as we're going down this path of dealing with the consequences and PTSD, as you mentioned, of this, there are we need to socially engage, but we need to do so in a responsible way. And so it's this resilience of the human spirit, and how are we going to get through this and be patient with the challenges that's going to come. I know we're in this I guess it is a temporary or a smaller version of a lockdown right now, as an example. I think we're going to have to go through this maybe even a few more times before we really get through this, because it's just the nature we're going on. So being resilient and being caring for other people and recognizing the consequences of your actions and what that can do to impact other people is so important. One of the interesting books I read a number of years ago is called Thinking Fast and Slow. And it really talks about this idea of the 2 brains that we have, that we live with. This one brain is really around this reactionary, fight or flight. Our instinct that we have to react very quickly to scenarios, because otherwise it's life or death if we don't do it, if we don't react. And then the other more thinking, the kind of deep-seated perspectives on life and how we understand things and evolve, and strategies and focus, and kind of the longer planning side of things, and how there's sometimes this contentious relationship between the 2 of them, and how we react to things that we should have probably thought thoroughly through, and sometimes how we think thoroughly through things that we should have just reacted and done something about it, and how do you create that balance between them. And this really comes out a lot right now, where people are kind of feeling like they're cooped up and they want to go and do things, and they look at this. And what was the other thing that was underlying this book is that statistics, people don't inherently understand statistics. it's not innate in our ability to understand statistics. We can look at them logically and try to understand them, but the practical aspect of it is we'll weight much heavier saying that we had a personal experience with over any statistics that say that was a rare event.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For
And
sure.
so, so our personal preferences, our focus in life will really dictate how we deal with things going forward, where statistics might tell us that we're doing something that's good or bad. The statistics don't really have a relevance to us. Our personal experiences drive our behavior much more strongly.
100%. You are spot on. Agreed.
And this is a challenge right now, and we're seeing this, right? We're seeing this challenge these days with regards to behavior of people, and for good reason, right? We're feeling, all of us, right, that we're social animals, and we're starved for this social engagement. And yet when we really, kind of justify to ourselves that we should be doing whatever it is that we're doing, we're ignoring the statistics that say we probably shouldn't be doing some of those things. And so this is the balance we've got to achieve here from a societal perspective. And again, I think the consequences are going to continue for probably years, if not decades, as a result of the things that we're doing right now.
Agreed. What about your second thing?
Second thing, so I live in the technology world, and one of the things that we are absolutely seeing nowadays is the pros and cons of technology and what it can do for us. Now, just the fact that we're on this kind of a platform right now, we've all morphed very quickly into this online world, and the benefits and drawbacks that come from an online world, and how we engage and interact and all the rest of it. And again, I don't think this is something that's going to be changing. When I look at the human kind of behavioral patterns, if you like, we're generally speaking resistant to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a generality. Certainly there's differences from person to person, but generally speaking, we're resistant to change as a society. COVID was an incident that pushed change rapidly. We had no choice. We had to change very quickly to adapt to this kind of environment. As COVID slowly eventually gets out of the system and we go back to having to deal with other things, and rather than pandemic being kind of the primary consideration, we have no similar impetus for change. So there's no major event that's going to push us to change back or change to something else. So what that means, by and large, from a human perspective, is we're going to continue down this path that we're on right now. And it's going to evolve a little bit as people kind of get, feeling of, I want to do a little more of this, or a little more of that. But there's not going to be this major impetus again to change back to anything. So It's going to be a hybrid. So we have this massive change that's going to push us into what we're at right now. The future is going to be a hybrid of what we had previously and what we have now, because there's really no major impetus to change back to what we were doing. And we're seeing this just in the way that we run our company. Classically, we would have thought around the perspective, and we were always had a pretty flexible environment. So there's kind of core hours you wanted people to be around so that they could interact and engage. But beyond that, it was pretty flexible. If you wanted to do early or late or work a little from home or whatever, that was a normal part of our environment. For us to transition into this kind of world was simple. It literally was pick up your laptop and go home. And what we've realized is that not only was it simple, but it was reasonable. And now we're working in this environment and it's effective and we're productive and we're doing great things. And, and we still have occasional need to connect and have a physical meeting with somebody. But by and large, working from home and working in this online environment works. And so we don't really see a pressing need again to move back to we've got to go back to an office and have everybody in place in the office. And we're seeing this societally. Every number of companies, in fact, most of the large companies I'm hearing from are either in you don't need to move back to the office environment, or there's going to be some, again, hybrid version of this where maybe you come in one day a week just so you can be there for physical meetings occasionally. And so again, I think this shift is going forward, and the consequences to that are dramatic. We have these challenges right now in Calgary in particular, where we have a lot of excess office space pre-COVID. It's not going to get any better.
That's right.
And so what does this mean from an infrastructure perspective? What does this mean from a city perspective, from a tax perspective, from a socioeconomic perspective? There's tremendous consequences to this that we're going to see played out over the next few years. And I don't think anybody has a full answer to this. We're all working as we're going through this to try and figure this out. And this is where, as a society, we need to come together to solve these things. I'm sure that there would be a lot of people that'd be very happy if somebody could come up with new uses for all this downtown office space that we have.
For sure.
And so, so these are the kind of things that we're going to be looking at as we move forward, that are the consequences of this. And technology is kind of an underpinning of all this, where our society as a whole has a technology underpinning to it. It always part of our life, particularly with things like smartphones and all these kind of things. There's always technology in there, but now it is our life. Where we live our life online. We live our life through these digital technologies.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've been thinking about vertical farming downtown.
Yeah, that's absolutely. This is one of the ones we talked about. The challenge with some of the buildings is that they don't support the hydroponic requirements of that from a environmental footprint, or sorry, the wrong term there. The skin of the building basically doesn't support the kind of hydroponic environment you need. But absolutely, vertical farming and changing the dynamics of what the downtown core actually means from a perspective of a living space. Absolutely, these are the things we need to be thinking about.
I agree. I love it. And your third thing?
Third thing, where we're trending right now with regards to the economy. We have, for a lot of good reasons, had a lot of strength in the energy industry, and that's been kind of the core of the economy in Alberta in particular. It's supported a lot of Canada, of course, with regards to the revenues and the consequences that it's generated from that and the ancillary work that goes around it. But we need to transition. It's not like we're turning off the taps and everybody's on a different energy system now. That's not going to happen. We're going to have a long tail end of oil and gas in particular, and its contribution to society and to our energy needs. But we really need to start thinking about this as an overall system, and where are we going with this as an energy system, as well as what are the related economies that we need to be creating as a result of this. Minister Schweitzer actually had some very good thoughts around that, and what they call the D word, the diversification concept.
Yeah.
I was born and bred in Calgary, as you noted, and I've heard this idea of diversification since I was born, literally. And yet somehow we still are having this conversation, and I'm not going to say how many years ago that was, but for a number of years ago, we've been having this conversation, and we need to do something about this. It's very, very clear that the oil and gas industry, while still having a lot of legs ahead of it, is kind of in its sunset years. It's getting to the next few decades. It's really going to ramp down in importance, and we need to have something else that complements it. So diversity in our province and leveraging the industrial base we have here to create other opportunities in technology or in society and so on forth. I think we have this tremendous opportunity here. There was another article I was just reading this morning. It was talking about how Alberta, because of the nature of what we have here, is really well poised to be in the next hydrogen economy.
Sure.
And replace the kind of the oil and gas work that we do with hydrogen as an energy source. Mm-hmm. These kind of ideas of diversification are things that we really need to be exploring here in the province. And we have this opportunity now. In some ways, this whole COVID thing and the related impact on the energy industries and the oil and gas industry is a bit of a reset button. So let's not try to just kind of, okay, let's bring this thing back up again. Let's actually take this opportunity to reset things literally and rethink where we want to go as a society as we go forward.
I agree with you. That's awesome. Actually, there was a conversation I had with Dr. PG Forrest with the U of C many years ago. We were at 1886 for breakfast, actually. Nice. And he commented that he had been trying to get our city to look at plastics and move into that. And of course, that would be an easy move as well. And if we would have been in plastics when the decisions around COVID hit in March, could you imagine?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? You don't know what's going to happen globally. You don't know necessarily what the priorities are going to be, but we need a resilient economy here that can adapt and evolve accordingly. And we've been trying to do that, and then certainly have made some strides. And not to say that we haven't done some diversification over the last number of years, but we certainly haven't made as many strides as we could have. And we could have leveraged a lot of what was done in the energy industry to create a parallel economy that would have, as you said, would have put us in good stead, in this particular scenario of COVID. So, agreed.
And what about in closing? What would you like to say? Legacy, good news, or opportunity? Anything like that?
So one of the things I've also seen of late, and particularly because of the volunteer work that I do and the number of initiatives that I'm involved in, is that there is a very strong volunteer spirit still in Alberta. Mm-hmm. People really, really focus on giving back and how can we make things better. So this to me is really heartwarming. I really see that there's so many people who feel like it's not just about me, it's about society, and how can we actually make the whole thing better, and that'll make my life better too. And so, kudos to all the people that are out there that are giving back in these times and really trying to make lives better for other people.
I agree with you. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeff. I really appreciate your time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much as well, Catherine. I really appreciated the opportunity.
Thank you, Jeff. Everyone, that was Jeff LaFrenz. What a cool cat, doing some cool things. Check out their business and what they're up to, and like and share and tell the world about them. Have a great day, and thanks for joining us on Cat's Track.